Hi, and good evening. My name is David, using he, him pronouns, and tonight I am running a session of Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond. This is a hack of Brindlewood Bay that is written by Alicia Furness and Chris Bissett, and the game is based on Brindlewood Bay, is by Jason Cordova. This game is so Brindlewood Bay is a game about a group of older women who are all members of a mystery book club and solve crimes around the town of Brindlewood Bay. Specifically, it's designed well. I think it can work well as a one-shot. It's specifically designed as a sort of campaign-length game, essentially, with an ongoing plot in the background and all this sort of thing. The game we'll be playing today, Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond, as I say, is a hack of that is explicitly looks at making the game about a one-shot game for two players, one GM, one keeper, in the term of the game. And rather than being about a group of elderly women running in a book club, it is about an elderly gay couple who run a B&B and are investigating a mystery surrounding their B&B. So that's sort of the premise of the game. I'll go into a slightly longer description in one moment, but with this game is also it's published by the Gauntlet's publishing wing. It was published in our monthly gaming magazine Codex, in particular in the Starlight 2 edition, which came out this month. The Gauntlet as a whole is a sort of online gaming group. We have a gaming calendar where you can sign up to play in sessions of games like this one, and we also have, as I mentioned, a monthly gaming magazine called Codex, which is released primarily to Patreon supporters, but is also available for purchase on Drive-Thru-RPG after a slight delay as a back issue. We also have a number of podcasts. You can find out about all that stuff at gauntlet-rpg.com if you're interested in learning more. As I say, the game will be running this evening, Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond. I'm just going to go through the CATs for this game. It stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter, and is just basically a way of communicating some of the information about what this game is, what we should expect from it, what we should expect to get out of our session tonight. If at any point during this you have any questions, you want to add anything else, do feel free to stop me. That is absolutely fine. So I'll start with the concept, and honestly, I've gone through most of this already. It is a PBTA game, which I didn't mention, I don't think already, but with a fairly stripped down rule set than many. It doesn't have individual playbooks. Each character has a specific move that will be available to them. We'll get more into that in a moment. As I say, it is the initial game that's based on Brindlewood Bay is sort of based on cozy crime dramas and American TV shows from the sort of 70s, 80s, and 90s, with some kind of eldritch horror undertones to it. This Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond takes very much that similar sort of approach, though in this, rather than sort of the kind of mystery novels of Brindlewood Bay, this is more of a kind of unexplained mysteries, X-Files, Outer Limits, that sort of vibe to the mysteries, and to the sort of the inspiration, I suppose. As I mentioned, the two player characters in this are an older couple of gay men who run a B&B in the town of Brindlewood Bay. So yeah, that is the sort of basic concept. As I said, touched on most of that already. So the aim of this game is specifically to investigate the mystery of Room 3 and to come up with a solution to it. This is the sort of the biggest, the most important part of how Brindlewood Bay and how this game as well works, is that the solution to the mystery is something that evolves, that we learn through play. I do not have an answer written down on the piece of paper. The way the game works is you'll sort of investigate the strange goings on around the bed and breakfast. That will give you clues. When you have what you consider to be enough clues to put together what you think has happened, there is then you will then make a dice roll, and the result of that dice roll will determine whether the theory that you have come up with is correct or not. And basically, one of the end conditions for the game is you sort of solving that mystery, and potentially doing something to resolve it or expose it or escape from it, depending on how things go. So that is sort of the overall goal of the game, is basically to get to that, is to find out clues, come up with a theory that unites those clues into a semi-plausible explanation, and then see how that goes. The other sort of side to this that is sort of quite important, both in the mechanically and just in the how the game is framed, is as well the idea of exploring the relationship between the two characters. As I say, they are a couple that are presumed to have been together for some time before the point we find ourselves at, and so some of the players will focus on those, exploring the history of your relationship as well as how your relationship manifests in the present day. So we'll see some of that as well. Tone. So tone-wise, this game is going to probably bounce a bit back and forth between sort of the cozy and the creepy, basically. I would say it's a relatively light-hearted game, though it can get some fairly intense and fairly both character moments and as well as some moments of horror. Those are all potentially possible to come up. Can get dark and menacing, but it's absolutely like as well should be kind of, it said that Murder She Wrote can be a bit kitsch and campy as well. So that's those are sort of the two poles, as it were, that will be kind of moving between. The important thing, I think, that I think is kind of important with tone in this game is, while there is it's good to play into, it can be good to play into some of the sort of the humor of these sort of genre of TV series and all that. It is also important to take the characters themselves seriously, particularly because we are looking here at older characters. So one thing on that tone of things, we don't want to get into into kind of like outright mockery of older people, and play them as real people with real agency, skills, experiences, and not as kind of just doddering old people sort of thing. That is something we kind of want to avoid tone wise. So, and finally, the subject matter of this game. So one of the key sort of plot elements in this particular story of Bed, Breakfast and Beyond is that there have been a number of disappearances from one of the rooms in the hotel, or at least of people who have stayed at one of the rooms in the hotel. So that is going to be kind of a key theme. Potentially, that might also involve violence or other unsavory ends to those people who have disappeared. So that is just something to be aware of. In terms of the characters, the characters you'll be playing, it's unlikely you will be perpetrating acts of violence. It's not really within the genre thing. It might happen to some extent, but it's not kind of, we're not going to be getting into a kind of sword and sorcery, hacking of limbs and stuff like that. There may be some there may be the more likely perhaps to be the subject or the potential subject of violence, though, and be dealing with the aftermath of violence. one of the things that's again I think is important to cover at this point is there is one of the mechanics in this is referred to as the mask mechanic. In Brindlewood Bay, it's referred to as the crown mechanic, but it's functionally the same thing. This is basically a mechanic that allows you to sort of step back a failed roll, or not just a failed roll, but it can be used to step back a failed roll and turn it into a success, or turn a success into a better success. One of the things this means is that the way this is timed, and I said we'll get on this properly when we get into things in a moment, but one of the ways this is timed, it means that the kind of usual course of events is that if you fail at a roll, I will narrate the outcome of that sort of failure, and then you, if you wish at that point, get to use the mask to kind of rewind and change what happens by using that mechanic. So one of the things that this does mean is that it is possible for me as a narrator to push quite hard with sort of fails in particular on the characters, because sort of you have that mechanic to then reverse what's happened if you wish. So that's something to be aware of. We'll have a discussion in a moment on that, on sort of lines and veils. We still, that is not to say that I want to push things in a way that's uncomfortable for us as players, but it is kind of an encouragement to push things to a way that's safely uncomfortable, to put, if we can put it that way. The other things are obviously sort of we'll be touching on kind of horror in the broadest sense, possibly personal horror, possibly body horror, that sort of thing. We'll see exactly where we get to with that, and if but that's this is the focus of this game is a little bit tight, so it's probably slightly going to be less. There's a very sort of like Cthulhu mythosy undertone to Brindlewood Bay itself. That's slightly less pronounced in this particular game, but there's still probably going to be some horror elements. But, the other thing as well, obviously, is to be aware of this: the romantic relationship between our two characters in this is kind of central to the game. It does get touched on quite a bit. So we'll still be avoiding having any kind of like graphically sexual content in the game. Some kind of references to and veiled sexual encounters are absolutely fine, but we don't want anything too graphic in description. One of the things that is possible might come up, and I think it's just worth highlighting, is that there might be so there's a very, very like veiled reference to some homophobia in this particular game. It's one of the potential clues involves homophobia. We can avoid that if people would prefer that off the table entirely. We'll discuss that in a moment in our lines and veils. Again, as well, with some of the flashbacky type stuff, we might encounter some historical homophobia. Again, if that's not something that we're interested in, we can leave it off the table. It's by no means essential to this game. It's just something that, given what the story is about, it might come up. So those are the sort of main key things I wanted to call out as part of our subject matter discussion. As I say, we're going to have a discussion in a minute on our lines and veils, which are the sort of things we want to exclude entirely from the game, and the things that we are happy to have, but we don't want to make them the focus or have them too graphic and on screen. We will also be using two other safety tools. Firstly, the X card, which is by John Stavropoulos. This is basically just a quick way of removing from the game any content we're not happy with. So if something comes up, you don't like it, you want us to not continue with that, want us to remove that from the scene. You can sort of do an X with your hands. You can type an X in chat, or you can just say, "I'd like to X card that, please," over voice. Any of those is good. I will, as ever, say I am probably going to pick up on someone saying something over voice quickest, just on the off chance I'm tabbed into a different screen and I don't see what's going on the video screen in front of me. But if you notice that the other player has done a visual X of some variety and I haven't picked up on it, feel free to shout out on their behalf, just to get my attention so we can stop and take our bearings. If something is X-carded, basically we can just move on and sort of remove that content from the game and carry on. You don't need to justify why you want it removed. You don't need to explain it if you don't want to. That's fine. Just saying you'd like to X-card it is enough. I might need to ask to clarify what it is exactly that we want from the gone from the scene. Just on the just so that in case it isn't immediately clear from the context. But I won't ask you to justify. We will also be using script change by Brebo Sheldon. This is another tool, works a bit like the X card. We have a number of kind of commands that we can use. I'll just quickly go over again, there is the PDF to this is linked in the play materials for my players, but the instructions that I find most useful from this are pause, which can be used anytime if you just want to bring what's happening on screen to halt for a moment. That might be because, particularly again in a two-player game like this, because you have to leave for a moment and it's pointless carry on with one person sort of thing. Maybe the doorbell goes, you get a phone call, anything like that, that's fine. Or it can be to sort of like signal we want to have a quick out of character discussion about what's going on in the scene. This might be to clarify the direction we want to take the scene. It might be you have a rules question you want to ask. It might be that you want to something that's come up. It's not quite got to the point of X-carding it, but you'd like to avoid particular things happening in a scene. Anything like that, we can have those discussions between us at any time. Pause is just a way of indicating that we want to break for a moment to do so. We also have rewind. This is used to just step back and change something that's just happened. This might be, again, because a scene has started going in a direction that you're not comfortable with and you want to kind of change it down a different course before it gets to the point where you can't continue with it. And you just want to rewind to a slightly earlier point so we can do something differently. It might be that you think, oh, actually, that wasn't what I meant. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to come across as intimidating. I was trying to be more friendly or something else. That sort of thing. We can just do a quick rewind, change that. And fast forward is the third one that I think is kind of quite useful. Fast forward can also be used to skip quickly over something. This might be akin to a veil. It's like, yeah, I don't want to. We like if we start getting into a description of something, you think, actually, can we just like, we've got the gist. I don't want to get a too graphic description of what we've just found. Can we take it as read and move on? Or it might be that just a scene is kind of circling around a bit and isn't getting anywhere. We just want to move, indicate we want to move to sort of like the next big decision point or point of action or something else. So those are the two other primary safety tools we'll be using. We're also playing under the open door policy. This is just to say that if at any point you need to leave the game, whether that be to take a quick break or you need to just leave entirely for the rest of the session, that is absolutely fine. You always have the option to do so. You don't need to announce that. If you need to leave, you need to leave. If you can, let me know if you are roughly how long before you will be back, or if you won't be back at all. That is useful to me just for in terms of like working out what we'll do, where we'll go from there. But again, it's not necessary. If you do need to leave at any point for any reason, that is fine. So I think that is our sort of safety stuff done. I'm just going to pause our recording now and we'll actually go over the lines and veils. Right, so and I realize the one thing I haven't done yet is to ask the two of you to introduce yourselves, and I've been doing a lot of talking, so I will give the opportunity now. I will go in character keyboard, as I think we have names on the thing. So, and in fact, tell you what I'll do is I will get you to introduce yourselves and tell us, the first glance of your characters, and then we'll get into developing more detail about them in a moment. So, yeah, Brandon, if you'd like to start.
Yes, my name's Brandon, and my character is Clarence. I think of him as having had a difficult occupation before, like he's an ex-prosecutor. This has left him a bit of a misanthrope, and he deals with this through a biting, sarcastic humor, involving pretty much anyone and everyone. He has a wry smile. He likes fly fishing in his spare time. And he has a daughter, Anne, 35 years old, from a previous marriage to Elizabeth, who occasionally comes in the picture to meddle, but who has not remarried, as far as I know.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. And Drew, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you'll be playing.
Hi, I'm Drew. I use he, him pronouns, and I am going to be playing Roland, or Rolly to his friends. And Rolly is, I think, best way to describe him would be kind of like if a golden retriever was an older man. He is pretty, I think this is a case of opposites attract. And he's pretty pure and warm and wholesome, but not necessarily the brightest bulb in the box. And I think, yeah, it'll be fun to see how these two play off each other. Oh, I think he used to be a carpenter, so he's handy, but maybe not the best at it.
Nice. Thank you very much. So yeah, I will just very briefly, sorry, I didn't do that earlier. I will very briefly introduce the town of Brindlewood Bay. Brindlewood Bay is a small town in New England. I don't know if there's a canonical state for it to be in, but I think it is just generically in New England. It wouldn't help me much anyway, whichever it was. It's a town has a heritage of whaling back in the day, fishing, and agriculture, all that sort of thing. Though these days it's become much more popular as a holiday destination. Lots of people with holiday homes here. Others have converted homes into bed and breakfasts and the like. And yes, Clarence and Roland, you own one of these bed and breakfasts, which have been running for some amount of time at this point when we visit you. As I say, we obviously have your characters and a little description of them. The next thing that we want to do is and we'll do this as a little bit of a back and forward thing, which is to first we'll identify the thing that you love most about your partner, one thing you do that irritates your partner, and one thing they do that irritates you. So I'm going to start with we'll go across and then back the other way. I think we'll sort of do it. Well, I suppose it's not like tennis, but anyway. Brandon, what is one thing that Clarence loves about Roland? Or sorry, what's the thing that they love the most about Roland, I should say?
I think the thing that Clarence loves about Roland, that he finds indispensable, in fact, is Roland's absolutely inexhaustible optimism. I think without which Clarence would have had a slow, obnoxious descent into depression over the course of years, and so Roland keeps him from sinking into the abyss of everyone and everything is dreadful, and I don't see why they all shouldn't go away.
Awesome. I like that. So Roland, what is something that what is the thing that you love the most about Clarence?
I think it's his intelligence, his ability to kind of solve knotty problems that Roland gets stumped by, and the fact that he can rely on Clarence for that kind of thing.
Awesome. And Roland, I'll ask you the second question, which is what is something that you do that irritates Clarence? Oh, and sorry, yes, that was to Roland. What do you do that irritates Clarence? So I think I got that the wrong way around.
I think Roland, he leaves a lot of things unfinished, whether because he gets distracted or forgets. So there's everything from cupboard doors left open in the kitchen to mostly finished bottle of shampoo that's just left in the shower forever. He just doesn't close the deal often.
Excellent.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Clarence is a little compulsive, just a little bit, just in these sort of squares up the silverware kind of mentality.
Nice. And Clarence, what is something that you do that irritates Roland?
Well, it could be the same thing back, which is that I square up the silverware. But I think what it is that I rip on well-meaning idiots.
Yep.
You know, it's like people who are Clarence is perfectly willing to cut people slack if they have good motivations, and I'm absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's perfect. And then Clarence, the next question to you after that one is, what is something that Roland does that irritates you?
Let's see. I'm trying to come up with something that's not just the flip side of something that's already been said.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very specific here and say that he leaves his socks on the floor.
Yeah.
It's emblematic for tends to leave things lying around that I have to fix.
Yeah. Perfect. And Roland, what is something that Clarence does that irritates you?
I think Clarence, being a prosecutor, is probably used to or an ex-prosecutor, a higher income. I think that Clarence buys things that Roland figures they could do without or just make. And maybe there's a bit of a buildup of Amazon boxes in their back room.
Why shouldn't we have nice things?
Excellent.
Roland is going to die soon. What do you want to do? Ever good for nothing? Good for nothing. Next relatives inherit it.
Perfect. Awesome. So we've got a little more of an insight into how these characters will interact, which is nice. So I'm actually going to touch on at this point a couple of the moves that we are likely to come up at some point during this game. So there are two moves. These are both specific to Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond. They replace. These two moves replace one move in Brindlewood Bay, the kind of supportive move. They are You Are My Favorite, which is when you have an intimate moment with your partner while investigating the mystery, roll with presence. On a 10-up, you will choose 2 from the list. On the 7 to 9, you'll choose 1. On a miss, you get the condition distracted by love. If you already have that, you get a different one, but we'll get to that when it actually comes up. And this gives you the option to do the things this gives you the option to do. To narrate a memory where your love gave you courage, and get you get to ask me a question at that point, to describe something about your partner that is helpful to the situation, in which case I will reveal a clue, or to remember a time when the two of you were separated for too long and describe how you felt when you were reunited and clear an appropriate condition. So that's one of them. That's the kind of the positive move. That's looking at how kind of your relationship gives you strength, and looking at the intimacy between the two of you. The sort of flip side to that is the bicker move, which is when you bicker or have a minor argument with your partner. Choose two from the below. Choose from the below. Choose two if the argument or general bickering you have relates to one of the irritants that you've set up between you. Those sort of 4 questions we've just answered. Then you choose 2 from these. Otherwise, you choose 1. Which is that you can ask your partner a question about their character, which they must answer truthfully and completely. Describe something about your partner that irritates you, and they explain how this trait is actually a benefit or is helpful. You clear an appropriate condition, or I will explain now. You can get me to explain how your bickering creates a complication, but also reveals a clue. So those 2 basically, we've got the kind of the swings of the two sides of the relationship there, the more positive and uplifting, and the more cantankerous and argumentative. Both of them are obviously quite useful when used. So do keep an eye out for opportunities to trigger either of those moves. But the next bit in our character creation is to you'll both get to add +1 to any one of the stats. A couple of moves have specific stats associated with them, as just mentioned, but otherwise, most of the time you make a move using whichever stat is the most appropriate for your particular character. The 5 stats are vitality, which is obviously all about sort of physicality, and anything physical largely is off of vitality. Composure is about keeping calm, keeping your head in tense situations. Reason is about working things out, logic and the like. Presence is your kind of force of personality, and sensitivity is how attuned you are to the weird stuff in the world. So those are there. I think you've both added +1 to one of those, so that's good. You would then choose your individual move. This is a specific move to your character that gives you you can use during the game. I think both of you have chosen those, so I'm just going to ask for you to just kind of tell us a little bit about. You don't have to read the whole move out if you don't want to, but just tell us what move you've chosen and sort of roughly what it lets you do. Clarence, what is your move?
I've chosen the Danish Scully move, which is the skeptic's viewpoint that notwithstanding the apparently supernatural things, that there must be a reasonable explanation, and it gives me a chance with reason to avoid going down the rabbit hole of paranoia until it doesn't.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. And Roland, what move do you have?
Going with Rolly's optimism, I've chosen the Joyce Byers move. So even in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I believe that everything will be okay. And when I do a meddling move, I will find an additional clue, even on a miss.
Nice. That's quite a powerful one. They both are. So yeah, that is awesome. I'll just introduce, because it's on the character sheet. So I mentioned this mechanic earlier, but there are what is referred to as the Mask of Love and the Mask of Mystery. At any point in the game, you may activate one of the masks. The mechanical effect this has is basically after a roll, you can activate one of those masks to bump that roll up by 1 success category. So a 6- goes up to a 7 to 9. A 7 to 9 goes up to a 10 to 11, and a 10 to 11 goes up to a 12 plus, which has effect on a couple of moves, though not necessarily all. So that is what the Mask of Love is, or what the Mask of Love and the Mask of Mystery do. But the kind of the cost for them is, you'll see that this, unlike in Brindlewood Bay, so in Brindlewood Bay, each character has their own set of crowns, has their own list of crowns, and they each tick one off individually. The two of you share one track. So once one of these things has been ticked off, that has been ticked off for the rest of the session, and you know, that's locked out at that point. So this obviously only gives you a certain number of times that you can put on a mask and do that. It will, when you so the Masks of Love will all ask you to basically give a little flashback to a point in your relationship and tell us a little bit about it, so we can see a little bit more of the history between the two of you. The Mask of Mystery, that is more about the ongoing mysteries that you are investigating. So with the Mask of Love, when you use them, you can tick them in any order. You can just choose the one that you would like to perform, essentially. When you tick the Mask of Mystery, you always start at the top and work down. They basically show the gradual increasing weirdness of the situation you're in. The final one, it demands particular attention. So if you tick the final Mask of Mystery together or not at all, you can also, specifically, you can only do this when your partner is in danger. You will sacrifice yourself. Your partner will be saved and gets a +2 to the next theorize roll they make. This also immediately triggers the next theorize move. So basically, if together or not at all gets ticked, that is basically the point at which that we will start wrapping up the session. So it is kind of there as a timer. It does not have to be used, I should point out, but if it is, that will be kind of our climax to our story. But yeah, so those are the masks. And I think, as I said, that has covered off everything in our initial character creation. That is right. Yep. So that was a bit of preamble. So what I will do, we'll introduce the B&B that you run, and we'll learn a little bit more about that, and get our sort of initial setup done. Then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll sort of get into the game proper. So
I made a little modification as we were talking to what Roland does that Clarence has trouble with, was that and instead of the socks and the thorns, I decided it was just part of something else, that he occasionally dresses like a slob.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good.
He comes in when we have guests in his handyman outfit, which is well loved, I think is a nice way to put it, and things like that.
Awesome.
Obviously, Clarence is well turned out.
I like it.
As if it's someone who had to dress up in order for work, every day of his life.
Perfect. No, that's brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, we will now go on to sort of, as I say, our initial opening for this game. So the scene that we will be opening on is in your private rooms in the bed and breakfast. It's a night like any other. The two of you are sitting together, about to watch an episode of Unmasked Mysteries, which is, as I said, this unexplained phenomena, strange disappearances, all that sort of thing, TV show. something the two of you have watched for years now. You've probably seen like all of the episodes at least a couple of times by this point. But it's one of those comfort things. So as we see, you're in like the private rooms in the B&B, the place where the two of you live your lives when you're not seeing to the day-to-day operation of the B&B. So what do we see here that shows how the two of you are content to see out the rest of your years together? So I'm going to ask Roland first this time, I think.
I think it's a really comfortable little nest that has been almost entirely personalized to them. There are pictures important to them everywhere. There are little, even like the kitchen cabinets are things that Rolly has maybe customized over the years. And there's maybe more than a little just stuff, and just shows that moving would be a pretty big hassle. So they're probably not doing it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. And Clarence, what else do we see here that shows that the two of you are content to see the rest of your lives out here?
Clarence is contentedly criticizing the plot lines of the show that they're watching, and making Roland laugh, as he says, "Oh yes, I just happened to have shown. I'm a stranger that's just happened to show up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the night. But of course, you believe every word coming out of my mouth, and you'll come and investigate, because that happens. I know that's the first thing I'd do. Some grubby stranger show up in the middle of the night, and Raleigh laughs."
Awesome. So the other I didn't introduce the main plot element of this thing, which was a mistake on my part. But so the mystery that we'll be investigating, and again, this is sort of in taking on from Brindlewood Bay. Each mystery has will kind of be about solving a particular crime. In Brindlewood Bay, this is usually a murder, and so the mystery will be solving, the who, what, and why of that murder. In the case of this game of Bed, Breakfast and Beyond, the mystery you'll be investigating will be the strange goings on involving room 3. Room 3 is there have been a number of guests who have stayed in room 3 who have gone missing, either actually from the room or just, something has happened to them in the immediate aftermath of staying there. It's starting to actually, the rumor of this is actually starting to spread around town a little bit, and even perhaps further. And it has been having some effect on the number of people visiting your B&B, which is not ideal, obviously. I'm going to ask. I'll start off with Clarence again this time. So. What strange event that's happened around the B&B, or was reported as happening around the B&B recently, was particularly unsettling for Clarence?
Okay, just an ordinary event, or something unexplained.
Something unexplained or unusual, yeah.
There have been reports of wild animal attacks in the woods. people attacked by wolves or coyotes or things that they said were wolves. You know, campers complaining of aggressive wildlife in places that have been, you know, where it's been peaceful for decades. I mean, there are bears in the north, but they're all shy. And so this is odd.
Yeah, excellent. And Roland, who was one of the guests staying at the B&B that was that either experienced this or certainly reported about it, had heard, spoke about rumors of it?
I think there was a woman who stayed at the hotel specifically to, I think she was a wildlife photographer, and she would spend the days in the woods nearby looking for birds and small mammals. And she left after a particularly frightening incident with a wolf. And so we are very aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good. And I think, yeah, that is good. Yeah, and then I will ask about the same question back. Roland, what's one strange occurrence that's been happening around the B&B that has you on edge?
Aside from the disappearances, there have been a lot of small thefts in the area that didn't used to happen, and no one reports anything major missing. It's always little things. It's kind of more disturbing that way. It's things important to people, but not necessarily valuable.
Yeah, perfect. And Clarence, who is one of your guests that was involved in this, in whatever way?
Let's see. Herman Wallenberg was a fellow who complained that his car keys had been taken out of his room. Though his car was there. And we searched the place up and down and we couldn't find them, and he had to have his car towed and get a new key made and things like that. And he was very put out about it and said, you know, we have kleptomaniacs, you know, hurtling around, you know, hiding around the place and such like that. But nobody could explain why someone would steal keys without actually taking his car.
Yeah, excellent. That sounds great. And the strange thing about this as well is that you got a call back at the B&B like a week or so later from the local mechanics, saying that he'd never called back to pick up his car after it was towed, and he's not sure, you know, what happened to him. But yeah, excellent. So I think actually that is where we will take our first break. So we'll pause there for a moment, and then we'll come back in as we embark on the mystery proper. And yeah, so we'll say, if we call it about 7 minutes at this point, so if we come back at 22, and we'll pick up there. I'll see you all in a moment. Cool. So yeah, we'll pick up. You are sat watching watching Unmasked Mysteries on TV. So yeah, I'm going to ask Well, this actually says, just checking on it, the person that should answer this question is the player, not the character, who most recently solved a mystery. So do either of you feel like you have solved a mystery recently?
Not particular. I found this sweater. It was missing just a second.
I mean, that's that.
We figured out someone's health problems. It's not exactly solving a mystery. But,
I think it's closer than finding a sweater.
Diagnosed for a long period of time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
So yeah, in which case, what is this the title of this particular episode of Unmasked Mysteries?
The title of this episode is The Stranger on the Road.
Excellent. So then Roland, in that case, what is one detail about this, about the plot of this particular episode?
A American woman was driving back from work and encountered someone looking like they needed distress on the side of the road, and so she picked them up, and they turned out to, or do we not reveal the?
No, you can say what happened if you wish. Yeah.
They were revealed to have been someone who had been missing for many years, but they had not aged since they were last seen.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm going to ask, in which case, Clarence, what was the what did they believe had happened? What did they think was behind this mysterious occurrence?
It was they.
Anyone really, the person who disappeared or the person who picked up the hitchhiker, whichever you'd like.
What is the rationalization behind it? The sort of rational explanation?
Yes, certainly that could be it. Yeah.
Okay. That this person had a psychotic breakdown, that they had in fact had a fugue state.
Cool.
And basically had a second life that somehow that then reverted back at one point, leaving them with a giant gap in their memories, and that their youth was more apparent than real.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, and it's just getting to the point. You said you've seen this episode before. It's just getting to that point where the in the sort of recreation where the woman's pulling over to the side of the road, opens the door, and just as it's going to sort of there's just that moment where the hitchhiker sort of steps into the sort of the light coming out of the car door, the television fuzzes and it gets kind of crackly static running all down it. The lights in the room flicker too, almost like there's been some sort of electrical outage, and the curtains just start to sort of flutter a little bit, almost as if in a breeze. What do you do? How do you react to this?
I thought you said the electrical work was all done.
It is all done.
Well, then what's this? We can't have this. What would the guests think? They lose their precious wireless.
It's probably just a bad signal. I think he'll get up and kind of do the thing where you would adjust the bunny ears, but there's no bunny ears, and he'll just kind of stand at a loss and go try turning it off.
I think I'd swear, I think I'd take whoever did the percolation test in this particular piece of the property and have them flogged. I think it's groundwater from that supposedly capped off underground stream that's coming through again.
Well, flogging does sound like the appropriate response.
Yes, well, if you could have them flogged in the past so they do a proper job, that would be even better.
And at this point, I'll turn the TV off and on again and see if that fixed it.
It's getting to my favorite part, where she blithely takes in this fellow with absolutely no protections against anything horrible happening to her, notwithstanding our cries of "Don't do it, you'll be sorry."
Yeah, and as you turn the TV back on, it flickers, and it's just again still just getting that like static and that proper old scratchy sound as of in the coming out of the speakers. But yeah, it's the lights still seem to be kind of flickering a little bit as well.
No, I'd best go make sure and check on the guests.
I'll check the fuses.
None of them see how they're getting on. Hopefully it's just confined to this room. Yes, if it's not too late, yeah, I'll just go down the guest corridor. If it's not too late, I'll just.
Yeah, no, sure thing. Yeah, so it's just after dinner, so yeah, it's not too late. Yeah.
Of anyone to see if they're there and if they're.
Yeah, sure. You get to the first room, and the couple who are staying here are they're two women, Betty Grandis, who is she's got kind of dyed blue hair and horn rimmed glasses on a gold chain around her neck. She is a bird watcher. You've probably had some discussions with her about the what the stuff she's been seeing out on her walks along the coast. And her wife is Antonia Spooks, who is very into her into her mysteries as well, into the supernatural. So I'm just going to add those two names into our suspects list. So these are basically just of any NPCs that you have come across. And Spooks. But yeah, it will be Betty who answers the door, and she'll say, "Oh, yes, is there anything the matter?"
Oh, Ms. Grandis, everything's perfectly all right. We just we've been having some minor electrical difficulties. There's a big a storm system nearby that's sending up a bunch of static, and we just wanted to make sure that you hadn't had any trouble.
Oh well, thank you for asking. And I'm actually going to ask at this point if you would like to make me a meddling roll. So this is the meddle roll is one of the basic moves in again in this and Brindlewood Bay. Basically it's when you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information. So what you describe what you're doing, which at this moment this is I'm taking this more of just the what you get out of Betty as you're talking to her. So you will pick an appropriate ability to use, which again you can choose which ability and how you want to justify it, and then basically on a hit you'll get a clue. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think is Clarence is sort of relying on here to?
Clarence generally relies on reason, so he's looking for facts that fit or don't fit the picture.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Like when he was a prosecutor putting together a case.
Yeah, exactly. And so
when you stitch together the things they say that ring true and that don't quite ring true. So we'll roll here, and we have an 8.
8, perfect. So you will discover a clue, which I will reveal in a moment. There will also be some sort of complication that comes with this, but so I think what you will discover is that you will as you're sort of in the as you're sort of there, so we've not noticed anything, I don't think, have we? And she turns back to Antonia, who's still sort of sat on the bed. They've got the TV on as well, and Antonia will turn around and say, no, nothing. There was a bit of a strange bit of interference when I was changing channels a minute ago. One of the channels seemed to be out. I was just getting snow on it, and she'll kind of flick back through the channel. You will see, and it does seem to be, like you can see, when the numbers flash up on the screen, it does seem to be the channel that you were watching. Watching the mystery show on Unmasked Mysteries, but then she will click back and it will go to the program that she was actually watching, which appears to be some sort of paranormal investigation show. There's they're talking about the supposed ghost of a widow who was pacing the widow's walk on her house, and threw herself to her death when her husband didn't return from sea. That apparently took place here in Brindlewood Bay, but Antonio will say, yes, well, she'll actually kind of get off the bed and come over and say, yeah, that seems a bit odd, but tell me, do you know anything about this story of the Brindlewood Bay widow? It seems I was hoping that I might get a chance to see to learn more about it. Have you heard any stories about it?
Oh, well, a number of our guests have. Were you asking me? A number of our guests have had one thing or another to say about them. You know how these tales get around.
Yes.
Yes. Evidently, he was. yes, the theme seems to be that that he was just making a short run up the coastline to Yarmouth Sound in Maine, and there hadn't been any bad weather, so there was no reason that he shouldn't come home. And one of them has suggested that in fact it wasn't that he disappeared at all, that he just chose to stay away.
That's
why she killed herself.
So that's interesting. Thank you. Thank you. That's and I know you've already said that the room was occupied, but if it would be possible to just take a look around room 3, I'd love to have a look. What with the stories we've heard about there.
Well, I mean, we do have a guest there, so I'm afraid I couldn't. You'll have to ask them in the morning. I couldn't. While they're our guest, it's their private domain, and except for the necessary cleaning and such like that, we leave people alone. We don't want people to think that that they're renting one of our rooms gives others a license to poke around and satisfy their idle curiosity.
Yeah, and she'll sort of sigh, in a frustrated fashion, and say, "Oh, I suppose that's only fair. Maybe I'll be able to catch them at breakfast tomorrow." She says, "Well, anyway, thank you for checking on us." And she'll sort of head back into the room, and Betty will kind of give a sort of good-humoured roll of her eyes as her wife goes back into the room. She can get a bit fixated on these things.
Yes, well, we all have our crosses to bear.
And with that, she'll sort of head back into the room as well. And so again, thank you again. Roland, we will come back over to you. As you head down into the basement, you say, to check on the fuses. There is a I think I think that as you come down into the basement, you'll go to flick on the light at the top of the stairs, but it doesn't come on. It seems to be off. The basement is dark, but I'm sure you have a torch or similar nearby. But are you going to proceed? So basically, what I'm going to give you here, as much as an excuse to get some of the moves out there, is to basically to check out the sorry, words failing me, to check out the fuse box and the like. I'm going to ask for this to be the night move, which is when you do something risky or face something you fear. You name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve, and I'll tell you how it's worse than you fear. You can choose to either back down or go through with it, and if you go through with it, you roll with an appropriate ability. If that sounds okay, if you are interested, I suppose, in going for that night move out the gate, then we will go with that. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, certainly.
Cool. So yeah, what are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve navigating this dark basement?
I'm torn between Rolly being kind of afraid of the age-old bumping into a ghost, and also being afraid of bumping into something else and falling and hurting himself.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to say it is worse than that. It's kind of a bit of both. That if you fail to lose, if you fail, you will not only there will be something down here, something strange and dangerous. And not only that, but rather than being just suspect, I think it will be physical, and it will have the capacity to hurt, and will in fact do so. That is what's at risk here as you venture into the darkened basement. So your torch lighting the way as you investigate the fuse box. But yeah, if you would like to make that roll, and what ability do you think, what stat do you think is the most appropriate here?
Well, it's certainly not reason.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think unless he could convince whatever is down there to be kind, I think it would just be vitality.
Yeah, composure might also be a good call. Because but yeah, I'd say probably vitality or composure.
Composure to maintaining your cool.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go with composure then.
Excellent.
And that is a 9.
A 9. Okay, cool. So on a 7 to 9, you will find your way through to the fuse box. There will be a complicational cost, which we'll get into in a moment. But yeah, you stumble your way through the in the dark, just in the light of the torch, and you get to the fuse box. You do actually notice that it does look like the fuse to the specifically to the basement has actually tripped. But you're just able to flick it back and flick it back again, and the light above you will actually start to flicker on. But as you made your way over here, you will have just like stubbed your toe on a box that's there's just a big cardboard box with something in it that's sort of isn't where you were expecting it to be. Whatever's in it's fairly solid, and you crack your toe on it. So I'm going to ask you to take the condition stubbed toe. So with the way conditions work, they when you have a condition, if that would affect if that would adversely affect a something you are doing, then you will roll with disadvantage on that roll, which say you roll with 3d6 and take the 2 lowest of those. So that's basically anything where having a stubbed toe might cause issue. That's going to come up. But other than that, yeah, you're able to check out the fuse box. You're able to restore the light in the basement. But yeah, you can't see anything else wrong with the electrics. Everything else seems to be working. At least, down here in the fuse box, everything seems to looks fine. There doesn't seem to be any other problems.
And I'll kind of putting one hand on everything that will help support his weight, make his way back up the stairs, grumbling about his toe.
Excellent.
Do we have a name for our B&B?
I didn't ask that, actually. No, you are certainly free to come up with one. There is not a canonical name for it, so yeah, if you want to.
Whispering Pines.
I'm fine with that.
If you have a better name.
I was thinking with being so close to the ocean with the whaling town, just something really kind of nice but boring, like Oceanside. Or the Crow's Nest.
Yes, the Crow's Nest.
Nice, I like that.
Doesn't hurt that there are a lot of crows.
Yeah.
So the local wildlife seems to have adopted the name, or vice versa. We didn't name it. We purchased it from the previous proprietors.
It must have been a fixer-upper.
Yes, it had fallen on difficult times, and we refurbished it. But the crows were a fixture. They conveyed with the property.
So coming back up, would I bump into Clarence or just head back to the rooms?
I presumably made the rounds, and haven't found nothing else out of the ordinary, or what?
Yeah, I think So I think the you'll have checked. I think there's not like huge numbers of rooms here. It's not like a sprawling hotel or anything. But yeah, you do the rounds quickly. There's the other guests who are here are losing track of the tab that I have it in. So yeah, the other people who are staying here is the only other actual guest who is staying here is I've lost track of it. Sorry. Yes, John Thompson. He is actually here. He's actually here looking for information about his husband who went missing. His husband was called Jorge Vasquez. He was a guest here, though John himself is actually not currently in. His room is still like set up. He's still he is still a guest here, but he's currently out when you go to check on him, sort of thing.
Is he in room 3?
No, he's not. The room 3 is nominally vacant, at least from your perspective. You are not aware of any guests currently staying in there.
Oh, okay.
As you know, you have been keeping it empty. Though I think actually the point when you both meet up again is actually when you are outside room 3. I'm just going to quickly pop to the so yeah, in the hallway outside room 3. This, like, it's kind of like a little offshoot corridor. the on the sort of first floor. Sorry, on the second floor, I suppose. But this like little bit of corridor, just this little hallway, it always just seems a little bit dim and drab compared to the rest of the place. Even though you've kind of repainted and stuff, just the paint always has that slightly something slightly just off about the place. What do you see? What have you seen here in this little hallway that just shows you that the guests can feel something isn't right? I'll ask Clarence first.
In other words, what evidence that indicates that the guests are uncomfortable here?
Yeah. Probably something you've seen in the past rather than something you see right now, but yeah.
In order to try and brighten it up, there's a little pedestal in the corner of Ben's in the corridor, with a little statue of Ganesh on it that I found in an antique shop somewhere, and it's the trunk is well polished. People seem to have this compulsive need to rub it as they go by.
Excellent. And Roland, same question to you. What's something that something in the hallway that shows like the guest can feel sort of bad vibes here?
I think unlike the rest of the guest areas, the carpet is not as well trodden, because people will. The only reason people stay in that room is if the other two rooms are booked, or they think they want to go into the slightly infamous room 3. So I think people will kind of go, do you have another room? And we'll steer them away if need be. So people just don't go there.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. And the two of you will kind of as I said, you'll meet up just outside of here as you come back up from the basement. You finish your rounds, and the door to room 3 will open, and a man will pop his head out of the room. You've both seen this man around before. His name is Sandeep. He is probably in his 40s, dark skin, silver hair, very, very neatly presented, wears a nice suit. He isn't a guest, but he shows up sometimes. You've had numerous run-ins with him before. But yes, he will pop his head out of the door and say, good evening, gentlemen. Is there anything I can help you with? I heard you speaking to some of the other guests.
If you're going to stay in this room, we're going to charge you.
Oh, of course, by all means. I'll have my people take care of it. Have no fear about that.
You can't just show up like this without booking. It's not right.
Well, sorry to put you out of course.
Privileged New Yorkers, what can you do about them? I say not quite under my breath.
Roland will kind of take a limping step forward and say, when did you get in, Mr. Sandeep?
Just a little earlier.
Did you even sign the register? Or did you just take the keys from behind the desk, as usual?
I don't quite remember.
I refrained from banging my head on the nearest skull, but only with an effort.
Will we see you at breakfast in the morning?
Well, there's certainly every chance of it, yes.
Right, right.
A mysterious disappearance, I say. Again, not quite under my breath. Can only hope.
You haven't experienced any strange electrical issues tonight, have you, Mr. Sandeep?
No, I have not. Thank you for asking, though. I think the electrics all seem fine in here.
Good. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the morning.
Of course.
Yes, well, that's your prerogative either way. But breakfast will be at the usual time.
Jolly good. And with that, he will step back into the room, which will close with a click behind him.
Rolly will turn to Clarence and say, he's really quite handsome for a ghost.
He's not a ghost. He's just very irritating.
Well, he can be both things.
Yes, but in this case, he's not. He's from New York, I think. And he has too much money. And he thinks he can just show up here whenever he wants, whether we have a booking or not. And I swear I don't know how his son. And do you remember the time that he talked that Mrs. Wenselford out of her booking and persuaded her to go to some other establishment?
It wouldn't be so galling if he paid.
Yes, well, I usually can get money out of him, but it's a chore. It's so high-handed, I swear. Can't we just take the number 3 off that room and put on the number 4 or something like that and tell people 3 has been boarded up?
I like that idea.
I'm so tired of hearing about number 3.
I'll carve up a nice number 4.
Right. That'll confuse them at least a little bit. And people say, "Oh no, we're not putting your number 3."
Like the 13th floor.
We can have a priest up here to exercise it too, if anybody feels strongly about it.
Good to cover our bases.
Whatever it is one does these days. In the meantime, I'll go write his name in the register.
And I'll let you know what happens at the end of the episode.
Oh, drat, yes. What did you do to yourself, by the way?
There was a box of something down in the basement. Didn't see it. Clubbed my toe right on the end.
I've told you not to leave those things in the middle of the floor.
Yes, well, sometimes things take my mind away.
I think this is bickering. David.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, absolutely it is. Yeah, I think so. With the bicker move, as I mentioned this one earlier, but so when you bicker have a minor argument, choose 2 from below if it relates to one of your irritants, which this clearly does. The options that you have available are that you may ask your partner a question about their character, which they must answer truthfully and completely. You describe something about how your partner about your partner that irritates you, and they explain how this trait is actually a benefit or helpful in the current situation. You clear an appropriate condition that can be chosen twice if you wish, or I will explain how your bickering creates a complication, but I will also reveal a clue.
Okay. I don't have a condition, and I don't need to ask them something yet. So I would say you're always leaving things about in the middle of rooms. I'm just glad no one's broken their neck at this point. Glad we don't have any stairs except those going down to the basement. You didn't leave anything on the stairs, did you?
I can't recall where I put the flashlight. It's probably hanging up.
If you put it away in the same place every time, this wouldn't happen. That's, I don't know how you can manage this way.
I like to think I keep things exciting.
Yes, but how is that useful?
Sometimes what you need is just where I've left it.
Serendipity argument again. I don't know.
That's a good one.
And I'll take the last one, a complication, but reveal a clue.
Sure thing. I think
go down and move this thing so you don't do it again. Yes, if it's appropriate, it can be something down in the basement.
Yeah, cool. I think what will happen actually is that at this point, while the two of you were talking, you will have not have you didn't notice someone has a third person has appeared on the scene, and there is a sorry, I lost the lost my place. Yeah, so sorry. There is a the local sheriff, Wyman Dalrymple, has turned up and looks between the pair of you and says, well, don't let me interrupt you there, gentlemen. I know the two of you are surely awful busy, but we've had another report of we've had a gentleman has come into the station to have some words with me. He seems to think the two of you was the last person people to see his husband before he disappeared, and he wanted me to check in on you. Now, I'm sure neither of you have anything to do with this, but I just thought I'd let you know he's been asking some questions, and there's something else as well. Another.
Why don't you come into the kitchen and have a cup of coffee?
That's awful nice of you fellas. And he'll sort of follow you. Or in fact, he'll probably actually lead the way to the kitchen. He'll sort of take a seat and kick back. So Sheriff Wham Dalrymple is himself an older man as well, probably maybe a little younger than yourselves, but probably not by much. Sort of looks a little disheveled, but he'll take a seat at the and wait to be served coffee. But yeah, he'll say the other thing that should be. I don't know if they've been in touch with you, but there's had a call from another one of your guests who says that when a local visiting book collector, she says that a couple of old volumes that she bought here in town went missing from her luggage. She didn't notice till she got back home again. But well, if I were you, I'd keep an eye out and see if you can see where they might have got to around here. She's not too happy about them going missing. So yeah, the clue that you have are some missing books. Specifically some missing antique books. I'll just put that in.
As he's getting the coffee, Roland will just say, that's terrible. There's so many things going missing lately.
Well, it does seem we have a bit of a spate of these sort of problems going around there, so that's true. I hope he will kind of give the both of you a glance. I hope you neither of you has been involved in anything like this. It doesn't seem like two respectable folk like yourself, I'm sure, wouldn't be down such scurrilous behavior, but
I should hope not. It'd be bad for business. Besides which, we'd scarcely admit it if we were.
The only thing Clarence here has ever stolen is my heart.
Clarence simultaneously rolls his eyes and smiles a little. Two parts of his mind warring with one another over the appropriate reaction to this sugary bit of nonsense.
Well, that's sweet, I guess. And the sheriff will take a sip of coffee. But well, to you best, keep your eyes open. We, if there is some kind of thief at work in this town, and
this is we're at a little bit of a remove from the main road, and we haven't seen anyone stalking about in the woods. We don't have any reason to think that any of these things were stolen from here, but we'll keep an eye out, of course.
Certainly.
And as for Mr. Thompson, we're devastated that his husband went missing, but again, it seems to be a pure coincidence that he had been staying here prior to his disappearance. He came to talk to us, and we didn't have a lot to give him. Told him that his husband, what was it, Frederick, I think, checked out on time. Showed him the signature and the receipt for where he paid, and everything seemed to be in order. They examined his room afterwards, of course. The cleaning service went through and didn't find anything. He had no expectation anything was wrong until we got a telephone call some days later.
Of course. Well, I'm sure it's, as you say, is a hardly thing you've been chopping up your guests and burying them in the basement or anything. But, well.
You're welcome to look. It would explain the odor we get down there sometimes.
So would rats.
Yes, and water seepage and everything else.
Well,
not that we have rats.
When they dug this basement, they didn't seal it properly. I am sure of that.
Well, if you're offering, I suppose I can take a look down there.
Just watch your toes. There's some boxes.
Give him a flashlight, for goodness sake.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes. The electricity's been a little peculiar this evening.
Of course, and he'll stand. He'll finish off his coffee, put it down. Is one of you going to accompany him?
Roland can.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, you're filthy enough already.
Just filthy.
Can't get any worse. Promise me you'll throw this away when you're done. I say, gesturing at his coverall.
I will promise, and you will promise to believe me.
Yes, as usual.
Excellent. So yeah, as you head down, the sheriff kind of just gives a cursory glance around the basement. Really, he's not expecting to find anything. He'll do the classic thing of just like opening up like the top of a cardboard box, on a shelf, and generally poke around, but not really doing a thorough investigation. But I think I will ask if you would like to make me a medal roll, Roland, as you're kind of having a as you're down here, and the sort of search is going on.
Certainly. That's just the 2 dice modified.
So this is 2 dice, and again, whatever ability you think is appropriate for how you're sort of approaching this.
Well, I could use my presence to try and see if there's anything I could learn from the sheriff.
Yes, certainly.
That's an 8.
Okay, that's an 8. So you will discover a clue. There will be some sort of complication around that as well. But I believe with your Joyce Byers move, you gain an additional clue as well when you make the meddling move.
Yes.
So put the... so I think I missed one off. I'll add that in a second. So yeah, I think what you will... get from the as you kind of as he's poking around and chatting, you can hear something. He's got his police radio on his in the holster thing on his chest, and it kind of crackles and flickers a couple of times, and then you hear a voice, just a sort of soft sibilant voice. It's not speaking loudly enough for you to make it out, but you can just hear that sort of like sort of sound of clearly some words being said, but just like too pitch too low, pitch too softly for you to be able to actually hear them. But the sheriff doesn't seem to react at all to this. He's just sort of like still just like looking around the room. And I think as he does so, he you kind of he pulls, he just again just like is just like looking around, and he puts his hand sort of on a box that's on a shelf, and it slips and falls off onto the floor. And there's just a load of sort of general junk that falls out of it. A lot of this actually is stuff that was like left behind when by the previous owners of the bed and breakfast that you've not quite got around to getting rid of yet. Nothing of any particular notice. But one of the things that does like slides out, and I think the sheriff actually bends down to pick it up, is a picture. It's an old picture, probably about 100 years old. It has it's a picture of like from outside the what is now the B&B, though back then it was still a private home. There's a couple of people stood there, stood next to each other in sort of 1920s garb, but there's also another figure that you see, someone like that you recognize from the modern day. Who is it?
I think it's Mr. Sandeep.
Excellent. Yeah. And you can see the sheriff kind of gives a sort of an odd, he looks at it and he sort of he looks and he says, this Indian looking fella here, you've seen him around at all? He seems kind of familiar, but
well, that picture's too old for it to be him. Perhaps his grandson stays here occasionally.
Yeah, I thought he had a familiar look to him. Maybe that's it. I must have seen him around town, I guess. But he'll kind of hand you the photograph, but I think as well in the raft of stuff that falls out of this box, there's a watch, quite a nice looking, fairly contemporary looking watch, and the sheriff is going to pick it up and says, this he'll hold it up. This looks awfully like one that's shown up on a lost and stolen report we had in a few months back now. I don't suppose you know where this came from.
I don't. It's that box is the things from the people who owned this place before we bought it.
Do you mind if I take this in and check it against the records we have?
No, I think that's fine. Wasn't doing much good down here anyway.
Good, thank you. Well, certainly seems to be no bodies down here, Roland, so I guess I'll be on my way. Thanks for the coffee.
Anytime, Sheriff.
Excellent. And so, yeah, just for clarity on that scene, the clues you discovered there, I think were, the watch technically isn't a clue, though you can consider it as such, but the other clue was the strange voices on the police radio. Yeah. Yeah, so the watch there is more of the sheriff is maybe a little bit more suspicious of you now with that watch having shown up. But yeah, we'll take another quick break there. So if we again call it roughly 7 minutes. So come back at 10 to, and we'll pick things up from there. Awesome. Right. So one thing I will do quickly now at this point is about just over halfway through our session. We obviously we've been accruing some clues with the investigation so far. I just want to touch on the theorize move at this point, just so we're on board with how this works. The idea with the theorize move is that when basically it gets to a point where the two of you have a discussion about what might be going on with room 3, and what you think the source or the reason for the strangeness is, you can make a roll. This roll is slightly different to most other rolls. You'll be rolling 2 dice as normal, but then you'll be adding the number of clues that you've sort of successfully incorporated into your theory. So you want to try and like tag as many of the different clues you've achieved as possible into it, and subtracting the mystery complexity from that total. So essentially what you're looking at is essentially the difference between the number of clues you incorporate into your solution and the complexity of the mystery. For the purposes of our run today, I've gone with a mystery complexity of 6 for this mystery. Currently you have 4 clues, so if you incorporated all those 4 clues into your solution, you'd be rolling a -2 on the theorize move. So obviously the idea is you want to pick up more clues, so you get a large bonus to that roll. If you on the theorize move, on the 10 up, you get your solution is correct, and you'll have an opportunity to sort of save the day and come out with an overall good resolution to the story. On a 7 to 9, it will still be correct, but I'll add a complication to that, or make the opportunity to save the day more dangerous and complicated. And on a 6-, that solution is incorrect, so you'll essentially have to discover some more clues and come up with a new theory before you can make that roll again. But yeah, that's sort of what happens on the theorize move. Unlike most of the other moves as well in this game, the theorize move, you can't use other mechanics on to like up the result on it. But yeah, that's just so you're both aware of sort of what we're looking to do here. So I'm going to ask the both of you, is there anything else that either of you want to do right now, or are you happy to maybe go to bed and wake on a new day?
I think I've had quite enough excitement for one evening.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Plus an unscheduled visit from the local law.
Yeah.
Every time he comes here, he wants to poke around and he never finds anything.
Well, it's always a nice little visit.
I suppose. If we knew them socially, it might be different.
Only one way to get to know them.
Yeah, excellent.
All right then, to bed.
To bed. In Roland fashion, he'll have left the door to the basement just open as he walks away.
Excellent.
I close it. The irritated scowl. Somebody could fall right down the stairs. And I look at the door. And make the 20th mental note to ask Crowley to put a lock on it.
Excellent. So yeah, you head to bed. I think maybe at some point in the night, you are awoken by what sounds like animals howling. Not like in a, nothing dramatic, just that sort of like, is that a cat? Is that cats fighting or something of that nature? But there is some sound of animal activity in the area. But I think, unless you actually go out and investigate, it's nothing that seems particularly out of the ordinary. It's just that sort of like probably starts one or other of you awake in the night.
I'm going to open the windowsill and stage whisper, "Be quiet."
Excellent.
Out there.
Excellent.
And then shut the window.
Yeah, excellent. I tell you what, I'm going to ask you to make a medal roll as you kind of look out over the night. It's it's fairly dark out, but there is some moonlight. So yeah, if you'd like to make a medal roll with something you think is appropriate for seeing things in the dark.
Reasons as good for seeing things in the dark as anything.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
And it's an 8.
Okay, yeah. So I think what you see is the it looks like you sort of hear, like you hear howling, you hear sort of some rustling and that in the bushes as you kind of look out, but you will also see what looks like it looks like a person, though big, like very, very tall and very bulky, maybe 7 foot tall or something, just at the tree line. But you only catch a glimpse of them for a moment, just out of the corner of your eye. And when you look back again, there's nothing there. Just that sort of, and it's that, it almost certainly is nothing, but you just for a moment, that your mind convinces you that that's what you saw.
Gonna have to go check the trash cans in the morning. See if anything's been broken into them.
Excellent. And yes, you can mark down the clue of a hulking figure in the woods, or however you want to phrase it. But we will come to the complication when you prepare in the morning. So yeah, the morning rolls around and breaks as you prepare get ready for the day. So yeah, I'm going to ask, I'll start with Roland this time. What's your kind of, what preparation do you do in the morning for specifically around the actual running of the B&B itself?
I think morning is when he gets up, he gets out of bed, throws on his usual well thought out and planned outfit of whatever's lying on the floor close enough, and goes down to his little workshop in I think it's probably in a shed behind the building, so it's not too noisy. And I think he'll start by looking at the list of little jobs that he needs to do, and then probably pick something else, like carving that number 4.
Excellent, excellent. And Clarence, what is your sort of morning preparations for the B&B?
Well, someone's got to make breakfast. The place settings and things like that were laid out the evening before, so that's all there. But they have to get in there and throw the quiche into the oven, and fire up the espresso machine for those guests who like that, and cut up the lemons to put a little slice in people's water, and 100 other little things that go to breakfast. Go out to the garden or to the greenhouse, depending upon the scene, and pick a few flowers to adorn the table.
Excellent. Yeah, and
on this trash cans while I'm there.
Yeah, they don't look disturbed. It doesn't look like they've certainly nothing's like knocked them over, taken the lids off, anything like that. They seem unharmed as you give them a quick look over as you're on the way to gather flowers. As you return, the Antonia and Betty will come down. They are both obviously kind of dressed for. They've got like walking boots on. Betty is a little more she's got kind of a has just got kind of a t-shirt and sort of jumper sort of thing going on, whereas Antonia's a bit more fancily dressed, but they're clearly still sort of dressed for going out for hiking. They'll sit down and begin their breakfast. What you will perhaps more so conspicuous in their absence, John Thompson won't show up for breakfast. Over like the course of when you have breakfast open, he won't appear. He did eat breakfast, the day before, when he first arrived. Oh well, after his first night, but he's not here this morning. Sandeep also does not make an appearance for breakfast, though that is less of a surprise, as his schedule is a bit more idiosyncratic anyway.